It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Let's Talk Sports Talk podcast and show, Dan Harris. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks for inviting me on.
Thanks. Can you talk about, of course, how you knew that you wanted to get started in coming out with a sports talk show?
Well, it's interesting. So I always been a big sports fan. Always had an interest. If you can't work in radio, particularly nowadays, you want to be a podcaster, just have fun talking sports, and I always wanted to do that, but because of my disabilities, I'm very low on confidence, even more so as I'm completely housebound. I don't have the interaction what most people do
Of course,
day to day. So, I needed a push to make me do that, and that push was the pandemic. So I live vicariously through sports, watching sports. It's something to fill up my day, but also it's the only real contact I have with the outside world. But COVID hit, there was no sports, so I thought I'm going to have to do something. So I guess boredom outweighed my nervousness, so that's pretty much what how I got started.
how did you come up with the concept of Let's Talk Sports for your podcast?
Yes, so the name is pretty simple, just let's talk sports, and so I will admit it's not very necessary jazzy or anything like that, but gimmicks ain't my strong suit, but I wanted it to be to the point so everyone knew what they were getting, and it honestly wasn't meant to be a sports network. I wasn't even planning to have co-hosts and maybe not even interviews just because I didn't know anyone. I had no contacts whatsoever. It was very rudimentary when I first got started off my phone. 3 to 5 minute videos on um West Ham, my football team, and the New York Jets, just breaking news when a result come through. And after a while, I thought, well, I best do something. So I started messaging people, seeing if they wanted to come on for an interview. Just people what were on my timeline, happened to be a sports fan, and that went on for a while. And I connected with some really cool people. A couple of them said to me, you really know your stuff up. Let's do a weekly thing. Let's make that happen. So we did that, and eventually some of these people said to me, I'd love my show on your channel as a regular thing. And over time, it come to an idea of being a network, and we like to think of Let's Talk Sports as a safe place away from the toxic side of social media. Everyone just helps each other out. We have fun talking sports. There's no bias. Like, we accept all fan groups, and the only rule we have is be kind to one another, which is a pretty easy rule to follow.
Of course, in your sports talk network and your talk show, do you only have sports podcasts or do you also have sports blogs featured too?
So we do have some blogs. For example, we have a website which they will go on. That's under maintenance at the moment, but absent of a website, we have a group which anyone can post their stuff. I will approve it. really all what you need to be is a sports fan, even if it's not like on our channel and it's still sports content. I will still promote it. The only rule I have is if you promote your articles or blogs in the group, be active in some way if it as it's not necessarily part of the brand. Comment on some episodes, check out some episode, which I think's fair. If we help you, it's fair to help each other.
Of course, what is the process like for sports podcasts and sports blogs to be a part of this Let's Talk Sports network?
It's pretty much pretty simple. Some people are just reach out, say, do you want to be part of our network? We'd love to work with you. And all I really, the requirement is I'll send them a bit of background that we're very much a friendly community as long as you're not necessarily hateful to other fan bases. You can come on, see how it fits. So the requirement is pretty easy, and we always say if you make that decision, you won't regret it. Will not only grow your brand, but you'll have fun while working with us.
Of course, what does a typical day in the life look like as a sports network host?
Um, well, it's pretty much so I suffer with insomnia, so it's literally probably 16 or 18 hours a day. As soon as I get even while I'm taking the meds I need to take, I will be uploading episodes. We are literally 24/7. That probably takes me about 4 hours. And then I do episode plans for show because I act as producer for a lot of shows. I do around 2 shows a day, do that. And one big thing for me is connecting other sports fans. So what I will do is someone what has a show on my network, I will ask them to guest on another channel what's also on the network. So I probably plan 6 to 8 live episodes as well as uploading around 18 recorded episodes a day. So it is very much 24/7, and then there's promoting things on our social media and then the recruitment. So it pretty much is a 24/7 job.
Of course, what is that like in getting to recruit those podcasts to come join your network?
It's really obviously sometimes people are a little dubious. There's a lot of networks who are sometimes out for themselves, but I just tell them their story. Most people, when they hear the story why I set up Let's Talk Sports, that's the reason why they want to come in. And a lot of us do say my story will recruit them, but the community as a whole is the reason why they'll stay. We always say we're more than a network. I don't think any other network offers what we do.
Of course, what services do you offer for your Let's Talk Sports network?
So yeah, we do shows, podcasts. I run socials for some of our channels. So I always say anyone that wants to join, we do a few things. First of all, we promote them on social media, not just the link what they're on our channel, their own links. We share any post what they want on social media. They just need to tag me in it and then I'll promote it. I will book guests for them. I will also book them on shows so they can get their face or voice out there onto other channels, which will then bring in people into their community. And some shows also ask me to do the episode plan as well. So that's pretty much it.
Of course, who are some of the shows that are on the Let's Talk Sports network?
So yeah, some of our biggest, of course, is one of our staple shows is the LTS show, which is obviously we have five voices hosts what have their own channels. It's free time, 3 evenings a week, and then we book guests, whether it be ex-pros, media personnel, to come in and talk to them. Think the Pat McAfee show, but our own take on it. So that's one of them. We have Let's Talk Fantasy Football, which is obviously our fantasy football show. I have uh, Jeremy Kiefer, of course, of Jets Chaos, one of the bigger Jets YouTubers out there. I have John Sinclair, which is a Newcastle United channel. So we've got all sorts. Nova Nation, which is a Villanova basketball podcast, both for men and women. So you name it, we've got. I think we're about 89 channels on our network, and I've lost count how many shows because a lot of these channels have 5 or 6 shows.
Of course, what is it like obviously getting to manage a big number of shows on your sports network?
So obviously it can be daunting if you look too far ahead, but I generally enjoy doing it. People honestly love being on the network, so it's not really work. We all say we're a big family, so it's not necessarily work, and I just feel it as a challenge to see if I can help these channels grow, connect with different people. I've got channels on us what I've connected with ex-NFL players, basketball coaches, and I just get a kick out of connecting different people with people what they'd never really meet. Some of our people have met in real life, even though they're halfway across the country from one another. That's a true connection, turn an online connection into a real life connection.
Of course, what is that like obviously having hosts that are ex professional football players, whether they're NBA, NFL, or any sport?
Yeah, it feels pretty good. Our strength will always be the fan channels, but along the way, through interviewing some ex-pros, I've become friends with some. Probably the biggest one is Lonnie Marks, the ex Kansas Chiefs and Tampa Bay pass rusher. He come on as a one-time guest. He's now a contributor. He's probably on at least 2 shows a week, and we will text just talking to one another. I sponsor his charity foundation, which he set up to help underprivileged young men. Another one is Adrian Coote, an ex Northern Ireland forward. He would text me last week when my team West Ham played. So these are real connections, professional sportsmen, and there's value in that. So I'm just a small podcaster, and having someone what's played the game at professional level adds a viewpoint what I could never offer.
Of course, what is that like having podcasts that feature college sports like your podcast, The College Sports Talk?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I've said on a few interviews that college is when you go there as in a man's body, but you become men in the character. So college sports will always be the most important, not just because what they do on the field or on the court, what they shape for these young men or women. So it's always nice covering this, especially around draft time when they get these opportunities to change their lives. So it's always fun talking about college sports, a nice change of pace. And let's be honest, they are the future stars. So why not follow some of these young men and women before they become famous?
Of course, what is your process like getting these new podcasts to come join your network?
Um, it's generally just touching base with them, seeing if they want to come on and join us. Some want to maybe come on a show or two. So I always say, do what the show wants, what makes them feel comfortable. And the biggest thing, what I say to them is, if you want to have fun, talk sports and just grow your brand, this is the place for you. And if you don't like it, you can always leave. But I always have faith in that no one will want to leave.
Of course, what is that process like getting to broadcast these different podcasts and these different shows on networks like YouTube, Amazon Fire Stick, and even Retro?
So yeah, generally, it depends what the person feels comfortable. They might not be comfortable with going live and want to record it. So it depends what they'd prefer. I do offer them the opportunity to use my StreamYard and I set everything up for them. Some want to do it off their own so we can establish an extension on theirs to our YouTube, or they can send me the recording. And some want, when they want to use my StreamYard, ask me to sort of package of create them a background or thumbnails, which I do as in position as a producer. So it's always different depending on the podcaster's need, because you've always got to do what makes them feel comfortable and to their needs rather than to your needs.
Of course, what has that been like? Obviously, seeing these different podcasts that you've featured being broadcast on platforms like YouTube and Amazon Fire Stick.
Yeah, I've always said, when some of these podcasters get views, it's almost you get a bit more pride from that than your own, because I view it as you're putting them in a position to succeed. So if you're putting them in that position, them succeeding is you succeeding. So it's always nice to put these things in place and watching them grow. And the hope is they grow so much that they grow bigger than you if you're doing your job properly.
Of course, what is that like getting to have these podcasts cover different sports, like your female sports, like lacrosse, volleyball, and softball, along with covering your male sports, like men's ice hockey, and football and basketball and baseball?
Yes, so we always say we want to give every sport and every sport team a voice. So we do look to bring in people what are at less covered sports. We even have golf covered. We have almost every sport you can wish covered, and that's what you want. You don't just want like remain two or three sports. If you're going to call yourself Let's Talk Sports, I feel you have to give every sports fan out there a voice.
Of course, what are some of the sports that you do cover on your podcast, Let's Talk Sports
Uh,
Network?
so we cover soccer, we cover NFL, NBA, base, rugby, cricket, tennis, golf, UFC, boxing. So yeah, pretty much any sport you can wish to think of. We've even covered darts from time to time as well.
Of course, what are some of your future plans for Let's Talk Sports Network?
So there's not necessary. I'm always a big one of you have some plans, but be flexible. You don't know where it'll take you, but definitely maybe bringing a few more sponsors just because for me it isn't a big money thing. Money isn't a big thing for me, but first thing you get asked when you want a bigger guest is, do you have a sponsor? And then if you say no, bang, that you don't hear back. And that's just because if you've got a sponsor, that means you're a more established brand. So that helps you get people. So that's all one aim we've got, and possibly being monetized on YouTube is another aim we've got. And other than that, just maybe be a bit more established in sports. We've recently got an opportunity to have press credentials, so using that avenue to create more content can only mean we grow a little bit more.
Of course, what advice would you give those people that are looking to start their own sports talk podcast?
Um, I would say just do it. For a lot of people would want a podcast, say, "Oh, I don't know if I'll be good at it. Let me think about what I've got to do." And then that becomes a few more months, and then that becomes a year, and then 2 years. Just do it. You can't get better sitting at home watching TV. What you can do is start, and even if it's not very good to start, the next step you listen to, and then the next episode you get 1% better, and then 5% better, and work up every episode, no matter if you've done it for a year or 10 years. My belief is you become a better podcaster with every episode.
Of course, what advice would you give those people that are looking to start their own sports talk network to feature sports podcasts?
Have a clear idea what you want it to be and what you want to do. And by that, I don't mean like maybe the notoriety. What I mean is the message you want to send. There's different messages to send, whether you want it to be a fun podcast, maybe a bit more of statistics based. What do you want it to be? And what audience do you want? Do you want the younger market or a bit more advanced market in age? Think about that clearly before you spoke a word, because if you don't have a clear idea of what you want, then the viewers or listeners they're not going to know what you want, because you need to be the director of this production. So think back clearly before you do it.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find your sports network podcast at on social media and podcast platforms?
So we're on Twitter, very active on Twitter, got a very big reach. YouTube is the platform we're trying to grow the most. Just search this Talk Sports. We're on Facebook, have a Facebook group as well. We are on Instagram, but that's something I've neglected a little bit, but it's something we're working on.
Thank you again, Dan Harris, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with Let's Talk Sports, the sports talk show.
Yeah, thanks for that.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon. You can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Dan Harris, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thanks for that, Brandon.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.